Hello. I normally don't do too many of these personal video essays, but I just saw Reality Check America's Next Top Model on Netflix, and I got some things to say. I felt that the documentary left a lot of stuff out. Commenting on America's Next Top Model is sort of the pastime of the decade, and I saw a lot of those commenters in the documentary, but I'm not on TikTok, and I don't know what everyone else is saying, and I feel like my story is unique, and it needs to be heard. When I was growing up, my mom really did not want to take me and my sister to the mall because the mall was really far away. And one day she noticed that my sister and I were watching so much America's Next Top Model that she just came in the room and said, "Get in the car, girls, we're going to the mall." I wouldn't say that I'm an America's Next Top Model apologist. I definitely think they did a lot of things on that show that were in extremely poor taste, even for the times. However, there's a lot in the show that really does hold up and that really stayed with me throughout my life. And I did rewatch it in the pandemic with everybody else. And the things that I found shocking and disgusting, I still found shocking and disgusting, but the things that I found warm and caring and personal were still there too. Okay, after diving into the memoir of Cycle 9 contestant Sarah Hartshorn, which is called Wanna Be on Top, I totally agree that everyone who made this show should be put in jail. So the majority of this video will cover what made it to TV and what impressions I feel like it had on me and the American consciousness. Thanks. This video is divided into sections. The sections are Tyra Banks, modeling, reality TV, the models, where are they now, what went right, and what we learned.
I'm all right. I'm all right. Today you guys are gonna learn about acting!
Yeah, Tyra Banks is crazy. You only need to watch 30 seconds of video of Tyra Banks to know that she is crazy. She's a really specific type of crazy though, and there's a reason that she carried that show for so many cycles. Another thing that I think is important to note about Tyra Banks is that she is a bad actress. She tried to have a movie career and a singing career prior to America's Next Top Model. She is in one incredible movie called Life Size, starring Lindsay Lohan, which was basically the Barbie movie before the Barbie movie. She's good in that, but it's because she's supposed to act like a doll. And even when she introduces like the acting lessons on the show, she's doing things that are incredibly inappropriate, like passing out or pretending to be dead, or things that like you would think is good acting if you like were in kindergarten. And trying to show that you were a good actress by fainting. It is now obvious, or maybe not so obvious, that acting, modeling, and reality TV are three succinctly different careers with three succinctly different skill sets. Tyra Banks was an incredible model and obviously an incredible reality TV personality, but her acting leaves much to be desired, and I think you can really see her acting in the Netflix special. She's speaking with a lot of emphasis. It looks like she's sort of practiced what she's gonna say, and she doesn't really have the sort of spontaneous authenticity that we really like to see from a reality TV star. And that is probably as a result of her getting so much backlash for being kind of freewheeling and inappropriate on the prior seasons of America's Next Top Model. That's all I'm gonna say about Tyra. I believe each of these girls had the exact experience that they had with her, and nothing you could tell me about her would surprise me. She said in her What I Eat for a Day video that sometimes she will order nachos from 5 different restaurants and have her kids try the nachos and tell her which one she thinks is the best nachos, which is crazy. It is crazy to order. I can't even order delivery. Like, ordering delivery for myself is a fucking luxury. So I cannot imagine the life of a person who is ordering 5 orders of nachos. Now we're gonna talk about the modeling industry. The modeling industry is pretty brutal. We've all seen Zoolander. We know eating disorders are rampant, designers are ruthless, and the entire industry is just run by these crazy middle-aged people wearing huge chunky glasses, just telling young, gorgeous, tall giraffes how ugly they are. Even when I was watching this show as a kid, I knew that I was never gonna be like these girls because I was not tall. There actually was a height requirement to audition for this show. I know because I looked into it and it was 5'7". They had one winner that was 5'7". Eva, amazing. A lot of the language on the show was really triggering around eating disorders, and it's crazy looking back at it now because it is like when that's the water that you swim in, or like when racism is the water that you swim in, you don't even notice yourself breathing it in. And I did find myself kind of like agreeing with the judges when they would say that a girl looked fat in a photo. It does break my heart that these girls were conditioned to take abuse from an industry that didn't even want them. Project Runway ran during about the same time as Top Model, and I wonder what it was about that show that set contestants up for success, where Top Model set them up for failure. Some of these girls were really good models, and I wonder if the stigma against them really came from the fact that they were from reality TV, or if it had something to do with Tyra. I have heard that it was definitely rigged. If you think about it, this makes sense because one of the prizes is a CoverGirl contract. That means CoverGirl has a say in who the winner is. And the drama that I heard was around the winner, Jasleen. The rumor there is that she had a similar experience to Tiffany. Tiffany is the girl who gets yelled at in the "we were all rooting for you" speech. It's pretty common knowledge that Tiffany was in the cycle before the one she ended up on. She went to anger management and then they put her on the next cycle. That's because CoverGirl and the other contracts probably wanted her. Rumor has it that Jasleen auditioned, she had some problems, so they paid for her treatment, they brought her back, and she won. Also, something that was illuminating about the documentary was like how they would rig the photos to make it seem like the girl they wanted to cut deserved to be cut. To me, that's more evidence pointing towards they knew who they wanted the winner to be. And obviously the contestants didn't know it was rigged. I think some of them figured it out as they went. It was rigged. The makeovers. Oh my God, the makeovers. I think they were kind of a power play on Tyra's part. And I do have to admit, I watched the makeovers very carefully to be like, did that make that girl look better? If the girl looked kind of like me, I would think, should I do that to my hair? The makeovers were so influential on me that one time I was in 9th grade and I had this long hair and I hated it. I was just sick of it. So I went to my mom's hairdresser and I basically was just like, top model me. And the hairdresser gave me the ugliest, I had very, very curly hair, ugliest page boy haircut. And when he was done, he said, "I made you look like a little Jewish boy. I am a genius. I changed your gender and your religion," which is freaking crazy. A crazy thing to say, which sort of brings me to one of the most controversial photo shoots in Top Model history, the race swap. I can tell you, even when they aired that race swap episode, it was highly questionable. That is not one of the things that I can chalk up to it being of the times. The other thing that I find particularly egregious about that photo shoot is that was a National Got Milk ad. Like, that was a real ad. Some of the photo shoots that these girls did run in like magazines and catalogs, and I saw them in print. Like, they weren't just for TV. So it was, honestly, I don't know if that was like Got Milk's idea or Tyra Banks's idea or producer's idea, but it was really weird. And it was also like extra weird to have like the babies, because a lot of the babies came with their moms who were like women of the like color of the baby, and it's like, why don't you just put them in the ads? Like, what was the point? The other photo shoot that I can say was definitely in bad taste was the one where they all played dead. That one was also crazy because in the judging panel they'd be like, your eyes just look too dead, and it's like, you ask them to pretend to be dead, but like the blood and the violence and like the whole crime scene thing, the way Zoolander does it with Derelict, how it's supposed to be like a satirical joke, I feel like that's the only way you could play something like that. Like, if you were trying to make a statement about how like crime, violence against women is just not okay, but that's not how it was played. It was played as like, as if this were fashion. And I think that really disgusted and repulsed a lot of people, even at the time. I also think part of what alienated the fashion industry in terms of this show were the photo shoots. Like, they had them do photo shoots that were honestly just completely bananas. In that vein, I am going to say that I kind of get why they did it, because in the first couple cycles, they kind of did very basic, like, you know, runway, very basic, like, you know, modeling bags, like, you know, maybe a little bit of lingerie. They were boring. I thought the lingerie shoots were really practical, and it did weed out pretty quick who like needed to go home, because fact of the matter is, like, if you can't model lingerie, modeling industry is probably not for you. And I really respected, there were some girls that went home and they're like, no, my mom's gonna see this, and all my friends and aunties at church are gonna see this, and I can't have them see my titties. And then they walked away, and I think that was fine, because it's important to have values, and it is important to show that the entertainment industry will challenge your values, and it's really not for everyone, and it really shouldn't be for everyone. I would like to talk about the format. First of all, highly addictive. The whole process of challenge, photo shoot, judging was honestly enough to keep me engaged. And I think the shows did start to kind of go off the rails when they tried to work in too much of that personal reality TV drama into this formula, because the prizes in America's Next Top Model were like career oriented. You know, it wasn't a cash prize that the contestants would use to fulfill their personal goals like you see on a lot of reality TV now. It was like concrete steps towards starting a career. So I really liked when the show was really focused on the business and the industry, and also kind of like the personal struggles that you might face, like being away from your family for a long time, if you have kids, if you have a partner, how you deal with that, learning to live in a house with all of these different types of women, which was another thing that really inspired me about the show, because this show threw women from every corner of America into a house. Some of these white girls had never seen a black person before, and now they are sharing a bathroom, sharing a bedroom, sharing a house. It was really cool and interesting to see this sort of integration. One of the people they interviewed in the Netflix documentary was Kenya, who is actually one of my favorite contestants on one of my favorite cycles. In the Netflix documentary, they really harped on how she was like gaining a little bit more weight than the other models. But the thing I always remembered about Kenya was her awesome friendship with Brittany. Brittany basically had the personality of a wine mom, and the two of them were always like going off together, running, having fun, and they formed like a really tight friendship, which brings me to the next section. Not all of these girls had dead-end modeling careers. Gay icon Kim, I think she was from Cycle 5, ended up being an MTV VJ. Yaya DaCosta has an acting career, and she starred in the Whitney Houston movie. She played Whitney Houston. Carrie D did tons of psoriasis advertisements because she was beautiful and she had a skin condition, but she still had beautiful skin. At the end of the day though, even rewatching America's Next Top Model, I think it's really good to watch it and to point out the stuff that's egregious and hurtful and harmful. And I think the Netflix documentary kind of only had like one or two gold nuggets that they really harped on, like Shandy. I feel really bad for Shandy. Netflix did exactly to Shandy what the show did to Shandy, which was like forcing her to relive sexual assault trauma. Typically not impressed by Netflix's documentaries, and I was not impressed by this one. But at the end of the day, I think that the points the documentary made about model being a place for inclusivity was kind of true. You know, Miss J goes by he, him, but obviously a pretty non-binary individual. I didn't know Nigel's mom was from Sri Lanka, but that's awesome. Like, it is kind of really incredible and crazy that there were, you know, 4 non-whites driving this hit reality show. I also really liked seeing the diversity of models. I really liked when there was queer representation on the show, because it really showed like, yeah, just because I'm gay doesn't mean I'm like into everyone here. Like, you're attracted to people on an individual basis. And I felt that that really like helped normalize just like queer identity. I do also think that Top Model perpetuated a lot of beauty trends that were in our culture and still are. There is a line that one of the journalists in the documentary says that Tyra is perpetuating the things that oppressed her. And I definitely feel that. And I think it's really important to kind of dissect, you know, what we've learned, and did we learn something that's still serving us? Leave a comment telling me what is something that you took away from America's Next Top Model, good or bad. Take care, everybody. Cheers.